This is Powered Paragliding News and Reviews. I'm Jeff Goyne at Beach Blast 2011. I'm here with Francesco DeSantis, who is the importer of the Miniplane Paramotor, and he's a longtime instructor. So, Czech, tell us a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm the importer for Miniplane. Started flying in late summer of 1991. Been fortunate enough to fly in 13 countries so far. Maybe a little over 5,500 flights. And
1991. How did you get into the sport? How did you first see it then?
I was air traffic controller with the Canadian Armed Forces, and a friend of mine that went to military college with me showed me a brochure, explained to me a little bit what it was. I met up with him in the mess a couple days later after borrowing his brochure, told him that I wanted to buy one with him, and he couldn't believe it. And we ordered them, and we
Well, you had just seen it at that point.
Just
you hadn't flown
it. Only in a brochure. And it was $8,000.
What was the motor?
It was a Paragliding, made in Germany, and we picked them up in Oshkosh in 1991 and drove them back to Canada, where I was. I was based out of Bagotville Air Force Base, just north of Quebec City.
Did you fly them in Oshkosh?
I did not. My friend actually is the one that picked them up. I didn't. I was on shift. He flew it over there, and the German guy was quite impressed that he was take off, without any lessons. Whereas a lot of other guys didn't over the years that he did the shows.
What was the Paragliding? What engine was on that?
Paragliding had a unique combination. It was a 3-cylinder Koenig engine, direct drive, and the most noticeable difference was that it would start with a little rope in the back that you'd kind of wrap around the prop, somehow hold the frame, pull the rope without getting eaten by the prop, and then carry on.
I'm glad you survived that with your hands intact. Okay, so 1991, you do that, you get him up there, and then what?
And then I did 5 flights on my own when my friend came back, and I was quite nervous because I hadn't had any kind of instruction, and was quite lucky that in those 5 flights, didn't hurt anything, but smart enough to know that I really didn't know what I was doing. Did some research, found a paragliding school that was half-hour away from me, took paragliding lessons, learned a lot about what I didn't know, and then from there on I turned into a better paraglider pilot, paramotor pilot, and just never quit.
Did you find that you liked the paragliding a lot more than you thought without a motor?
I did. If I had the choice between paragliding and not paragliding, I'd rather paraglide. It was just not available to me on a consistent basis close to my house. And so the motor gave me some airtime that the paragliding just at that point, wasn't available due to just logistics and time.
You were a controller, then did you retire? How did you get into this full time?
Well, at the end of my short service engagement, I had a job lined up at Montreal Centre for quite a bit of money. A businessman from Long Island called me up out of the blue, said he needed a paramotor instructor immediately, and I was kind of just surprised, and but he gave me the terms that he was willing to offer me, and so I asked him for 3 months advance, and then if he sent the money, then I would show up 3 months, not even 3 months, 72 hours later. One day the money showed up in my account, so I really didn't have a choice. I told the Air Traffic Control Center that I'd changed my mind, and I went off to Long Island.
Wow, you gave up a nice, cushy government job then. Congrats, to pursue a passion.
I did, because I wanted to live my life outside, is what I wanted to do, and I've achieved that.
Were you married?
No, never been married. I have a long-term girlfriend, over 10 years, but I've never been married yet.
Okay, and she's pretty tolerant of this?
What's that?
She's pretty tolerant of all this paramotor thing?
She flies. She started flying 10 years ago. I taught her how to fly, and she flies to this day. Actually, she flies more often than I do. Right out of our own field in Iowa now. It's about, 100 feet away from our room.
Okay, wow, that's awesome. It is Iowa, though, so wintertime, not so much flying.
Right. Since we moved to Iowa, the opportunities to fly have been limited. We've had a lot of rain and wind, especially in the last 2 years that we've been there.
Yeah. All right, so you did that was, what was the name of the company?
In Long Island?
In Long Island.
Paramotor.
Paramotor, of course. How could I forget that? The name of it, Paramotor. So how long did you do that for? And how was that? Just what was that like?
Well, what that was like was I was very well treated. I was well paid, but the actual delivery of instruction to the customer was very poor. I only had, at most 3 days with a customer, and whether it was windy or rainy, that's it. I did the best I could. I was criticized often for not completing the training. That was not my choice. And people moved on, but I was disappointed because I knew that students in 3 days just would not get the proper training and they would not continue, especially since their equipment was horribly heavy at the time, you know, talking 92 pounds plus. And
with fuel?
No, that was without fuel. You had to add fuel. With fuel, it was easily top over 100 pounds. And due to this, I just wasn't satisfied, you know, even though salary was good. So I left for Singapore, where another businessman hired me for, let's see now, probably about 4 months. And I traveled between Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia with this businessman. Made enough money at when the monsoon season started in October 95. I returned to Florida and I bought a company called You Can Fly Too.
How long were you with Paramotor?
1 year. Yeah, I was there from April 94 until March 95.
Did you ever fly over New York City?
I did. I took off from the Daily News parking lot on the Long Island side, traveled close to the 59th Street Bridge to the UN and then back. It was a pretty short flight, maybe total of a half hour. Memorable.
Wait, he did say the UN.
Yeah, it was with the UN. It was coordinated. However, the coordination didn't do as well with some police precincts at the time. So
is that a euphemism?
Yeah. So when we landed, we had company, and it didn't go very well for my employer at the time. He did get arrested, but he quickly got released because, you know, they found the appropriate permits, and it all got cleared up, and it was not a problem.
Okay, he did have permits then.
Yes, he did. And we were 2 people that did that. There was a second pilot, Eric Dufour, that was with me. He didn't get arrested either. He and I were the only 2 that flew. But my employer at the time didn't want to involve us at all. And so he actually said he flew. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was good of him.
Yeah.
What was it like flying over the UN building?
At the time, it was pretty nervous because you have huge buildings in Long Island, very, not very good options for landings. There were some, but not very many. The weather conditions were excellent. Otherwise, we wouldn't have went. So I thought it was a pretty successful event.
Do we have any pictures of that?
I don't. The owner has a couple pictures. The video he has on his that he had was actually not the video from our paramotor flight. It was a helicopter video that he made believe was our paramotor flight.
Little creative editing.
Correct.
We don't do any creative editing. This is live. It will remain live. All right, so then you bought the company You Can Fly Too, and then what?
And then I taught full time from October 1995 at You Can Fly Too. It was, a lot of work. We've continuously, in a sense, trying to find sites. It seemed that every site that we'd find, we could use it, but after 2 years, either the owner changed, the situation changed over there, and we had to find a new site. That was always the challenging part. And we needed a pretty big site because we did towing for training. That's pretty much it, just
okay.
until then.
So you got into the mini plane when?
I got in the mini plane in 1999. I did a demo flight for the Jerry and Michelle Danielle to try to get paramotors approved for the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. And there's other pilots invited for this demo flight. One of them was Boris Mayforth, and he owned a mini plane. I never knew him, and he was a bit of a loner. So he took off away from us, maybe about a couple hundred feet. I kept an eye on him, though, and noticed that his unit was very quiet, and he took off just like the rest of us, and then it put it all away. But before he put it away, went to talk to him. He showed it to me. He let me try it, and that's when I discovered it and liked it. And ever since then, I've been flying it, importing it, supporting it.
That's interesting. As it happens, I was there, and I saw that flight.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And I thought, wow, that's quiet, and it certainly looks light, so I was impressed with that.
Did you come and see him then? Did you talk to him?
No, I was brand new and kind of shy, just standing on the background looking around and making little notes about things. I saw a lot of things that inspired me later on, for sure, but I was kind of in the background flying my noisy little direct drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, well, onto the mini plane. Tell us what stands out about the mini plane.
Quiet, very lightweight, and yet had the power to fly a guy my size even heavier than me, but at the time, my size at 5,000 feet of altitude, which is...
And how much do you weigh?
I'm 175, maybe 180 now. At the time, 175.
Some Iowa beef?
Right. Idle winners and Iowa beef. When I saw that, I was quite impressed. The other impressive thing about it was this clutch system, which I had seen before, but I just didn't. It didn't register. I had seen another unit called the Flyman unit. It had a Radney engine, and it had a clutch. And again, at that time, it didn't register, so I just, discarded it as just non-relevant. This time it rang a bell, and I said, the clutch is relevant. It doesn't spin, and so only when you're ready to take off or add power, you apply power and take off. Whereas when the propeller spins all the time, you have quite a bit more danger in that it might hit anything from your hand to a piece of equipment and cause damage.
Okay. So what is the Miniplane's claim to fame? I mean, what makes it stand out? I mean, I see it has a clutch, but anything else?
The weight, the complete unit without fuel should weigh 41.5 pounds. That's in the standard harness configuration. The other thing that stands out is its quietness and its performance. Even though it's an 80cc engine, I feel quite confident recommending it for 200-pound pilots and below that take off from 3,000 feet of ASL or below.
Well, I very much appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
I've been talking to Chuck DeSantis, and this is Jeff Goyne reporting for Powered Paragliding News and Reviews.